Mr. Chairman,
Annie King.
I was looking forward to this debate because I had thought that, apart from it being a very interesting and different bill for us to have handled and to handle in such a short time, that there had been, across this bill, very good cooperation. But Dr Hutchison wishes to take it to a lower level, so if that's what he wishes to do, then let's have a look at how long we waited for a bill that we're now told is so important. And so perhaps I'd like to just tell Dr Hutchison that it was in 2007 that the government invited the Law Commission to review the misuse of drugs. 2007, for the minister who's chirping over there, in 2007, a year before the election, we asked the Law Commission to undertake a review of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1975 and to respond to the concerns about the new psychoactive substances. And so the Law Commission put out their first principles review with a mandate to make proposals for a new legislative regime, Dr Smith, in February 2010. So the National Party have had this since 2010. And so when they finally responded to it, it was 2011. There was not substances like this 9 years ago, Dr Smith. So probably get with the program. 2007, the Law Commission did a proper review. 2010, they report. 2011, the National Party respond. And 2013, we finally get a piece of legislation. And so now we're told that it is really urgent. Well, it has been urgent for 2 or 3 years, Dr Smith, and we know it's urgent from the impact it's had on mental health, the impact it's had on violence in the society. So it was something that we needed. And so I am disappointed in Dr Hutchison's comments, because we did work hard on this bill in a very short time frame, and quite significant changes to improve the bill, Mr Chairman, have been made. I suppose the one real sticking point was around animal testing, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I think we struck it right when we looked at what the purpose of this bill is all about, and that is to protect the health and minimise harm to individuals who use psychoactive substances. Now, that principle and that purpose should run right through the decisions that we make within this bill. There are some conflicts, I have to say, and we'll no doubt get onto those a little later, but I think that we got the purpose absolutely right. But then we need to look at what the bill actually is going to do, and we know that it's going to ensure that psychoactive substances, before people use them, would have gone through a process to, as much as possible, ensure they are of low risk. So the evidence goes on showing they are low risk before somebody consumes them and uses them, which is quite a different approach to what we have now. But they use them, we have problems, and then we try to fix the problem up. I think one of the important clauses in this part of the bill, however, is around requiring the Ministry of Health to conduct a review of the policy and the operation, and we changed it to no later than 5 years. It was originally after 5 years, but we changed it to no later than 5 years after the commencement of this Act. And I think that is a very sensible thing for us to be doing, because we're not altogether sure that everything in this bill is right, that it's going to work, because it is, at this stage, really suck and see, because it is so new in terms of legislation. So I totally support the idea that we would review, we would look how it worked, we would see what changes we would make to make it as the best possible legislation that we could. Another area in this bill I think that's important to mention in this part is also around the setting up of a psychoactive substances regulatory authority, and that regulatory authority is actually the Director General of Health, and a psychoactive substances expert advisory committee. Now, this expert advisory committee can be made up to 6 members, and this committee is going to have the functions of evaluating with regard to the results of preclinical and clinical trials, the psychoactive products, to assess whether they should be approved for individual use, to advise the authority about whether a psychoactive... Mr Chairman?
The Honourable
Thank you, Mr
Annette
Chairman.
King.
To advise the authority about whether a psychoactive product should or should not be approved, and to increase public awareness of the Advisory Committee's work in relation to the psychoactive substances by releasing reports and so on. I think those are two very good parts of this bill that puts braces and belts around what we're trying to achieve. So we've got the authority and we also have the expert advisory committee. But I do want to move on now, Mr Chairman, to the issue of animal testing. Now, this probably was the most testing part of this bill. There were very strong views about animal testing. I think it was a shame that the submissions on this were not able to be heard, and that was something that has already been raised by Ian Lees-Galloway, and I know that Kevin Haigh felt very strongly about it, that it was ruled by the Chair that the submissions on animal testing were not within the scope of the bill. In fact, we did find out later from the Clerk of the House they could have been in the scope of the bill had the Chair, had the Chair decided to rule, they could have been within the scope of the bill. What I believed happened, Mr Chair, what I believe happened was not necessarily the Chairman's choice. I would say the Chairman had Hobson's choice. And I believe the directive not to hear the submission on animal testing was not one made by him, but one where he was given a directive there would not be submissions heard on this. And that came from the top. It came from, not the new minister, I believe the new minister came in after that and tried to find a resolution around animal testing. It came from the former minister and the cabinet. They did not want to hear submissions on animal testing. I don't know why. It would not have mattered. In fact, it would have enhanced our decision-making, and we wouldn't have had this wrangling about animal testing. It would have given us the opportunity to have heard also those who supported animal testing and for the scientific reasons that they put forward. So what we did was we looked at how we could change the bill to put as much protection around animals as possible. And it is true, at the Select Committee, all members said this is a good compromise. We now have a supplementary order paper that bans it from the Greens, and the Labor Party will vote with the Greens on the supplementary order paper. And then, if it is not passed, we will support the amendment that the Minister finally put up at the last moment. And so we believe that there could have been a much, much better process, Mr Chairman, around this. And it's not like the Chairman to have run a process like this, because actually he is a pretty good chair, I have to say, one of the better ones in the National Party. But in this area, he did make a mistake. He made a mistake, or he was told that he should not hear those submissions. So for this part, there are some very good things in it. We have made some significant changes to this part of the bill to improve it. And I think, Mr Chairman, with the exception of the animal testing, it is in better shape, this part, than it was when it came into the House.
Mr Chair.
I call the Honourable Minister Todd McLean.